Over representing integers using colored tiles. Now, first things first, we need some information about these colored tiles and what they actually mean. So the colored tiles that I'm choosing to use are a yellow colored tile and a red colored tile, or colored chips. My yellow colored chip means +1, and my red colored chip means -1. Now these colored chips are opposite of one another. So this means that a yellow chip is opposite of a red chip, and a red chip is the opposite of a yellow chip. And the same thing goes for the numbers as well. A +1 is the opposite of a -1, and a -1 is the opposite of a +1. We can go ahead and show that on a number line. So here's my number line. Always starting at 0, of course. If I were to diagram a +1 on a number line, positive means to move right, so I would be moving right 1 space. My +1 would be right here at that +1. Now, if I were looking to find the opposite of that +1, I would do the exact opposite of what I just did. If I moved right 1 space, I would be moving left 1 space. That would be the opposite of a +1. A -1 is the opposite of a +1. A +1 is the opposite of a -1. So if I were looking to diagram or draw the opposite of 3 yellow chips, I would be drawing 3 red chips. If I were looking to diagram the opposite of 4 red chips, I would be drawing 4 yellow chips. So let's take a look at a few of our examples here and diagram them with colored chips. What I have right here is a +4. I went ahead and wrote the verbal description in. Notice how that 4 doesn't have a positive or a negative sign out in front of it. That means that it's understood to be a positive number. It's going to be +4. So I would choose to diagram a +4 with using a yellow marker here. I've got 4 yellow chips. That would be a +4. The next example I'm going to diagram, I could draw a couple of different ways. This is either red, the opposite of a +4, or just a plain -4. So to diagram the opposite of +4, I'm going to write out the word opposite of to help myself out here. And this would be that +4 that I'm looking for the opposite of. And as I stated before, the opposite of 4 yellow chips is actually 4 red chips. So that would kind of be my final answer for that opposite of +4. It would in fact be 4 red chips. Or I could jump straight to reading it as the -4 and just draw -1, -2, -3, -4 right there. So they mean the same thing. They're both 4 red chips. Just depends on how you look at it. My next example is -6, or the opposite of a +6. So I'm going to start this one out just like I started the one above, just to keep things consistent here. So I'm looking at the opposite of a +6, and a +6 is 6 yellow chips. And what this really means is the opposite of 6 yellow chips, which would in fact be 6 red chips. So this would really be my final answer here, 6 red chips. Or again, I could just read this as a -6 and realize that -6 would be 6 red chips. 1, 2, 3, -4, -5, and -6. So this would be the same thing as this one right here, -6. They both mean the same thing. And then my very last example, I've got those 2 negative signs again. Again, you're going to see these typically separated with parentheses just to separate the signs. This is read as the opposite of a negative 3. So once again, I'm going to use my little trick of opposite of, and then I'm going to draw 3 red chips, because I want the opposite of negative 3 this time. So if I'm looking at the opposite of 3 red chips, what this really means is 3 yellow chips. So the opposite of a negative 3 is really a positive 3. And that would be my final answer. So what this really means here is a positive 3. If you have any further questions about representing integers using colored chips or colored tiles, stop into a morning tutoring session and have some questions ready to ask.